Today I've got a video for you all on how I drill my aquariums and drill through the glass. I have been drilling through factory 10-gallon tanks. They are a thinner glass. Some of the manufacturers will recommend that you get like a special upgrade and don't really drill through anything less than a 20-gallon. They're a little bit more fragile, but if you're careful with the tanks, you can drill through 10 gallons successfully and use them successfully. You just want to be careful how you do it. I'm going to go through how I've done that today. You got three major things, well really four, that are needed for this operation. First and foremost is the drill bit. I got mine on Amazon, and I get a pack of two. I think they're about 10 to 12 bucks. So the ones I have been using are really cheap. They work great. You don't have to go spend $40, $50 on a bit. I just throw them out about every 10 to 15 tanks or so. You're usually going to wear them out. But at $5 a piece, $6 a piece on average, it's not a big deal. But they are diamond tipped bit, and I don't remember the size for this one, but it depends on what bulkhead you will be using and what size you will end up needing in the long run. So I have the bit here. Next, I have non-toxic, and yes, I have tested to make sure it was non-toxic myself. But Novacan is the name brand, and it's non-toxic glass cutting oil, and this is oil-based, obviously. And it's just a little bit. You add that to my jig when I go to drill, and that helps lubricate the bit and helps it cut through a little bit easier, create less heat. The last thing you want is a lot of heat when drilling these tanks. That's where you're more likely to get a crack. Next, I have this board here that I made up as a jig, and I figured out what to the center of my tank, what the distance is, and I made it to the center of the hole. And you want it down on your board. If you're lining it up like I do, I line mine up just underneath the plastic frame. You want to go about a ½ inch, maybe 3/8, I think is what I got about here, off the top of the board into the center. And then I figured out, like I said, my halfway distance from the edge of my board, so I can line this up to the edge of the tank, to the center of the hole, so that way every single time I set it down, I am getting the center and getting a consistency of where I'm drilling. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and show you how I do it. One thing that everybody worries about, I'm going to crack tanks, I would do it myself. Well, yeah, you're going into this, you don't expect to crack, even after you experience 5% of the tanks. With these smaller tanks, I'm talking 5s and 10s, really thin glass, then then don't get into it. You got to be willing to take a little bit of a hit at times, especially when you're learning, which is most of the time that I've cracked. Mine is learning mistakes. Starting to get a pilot hole drilled with this and taking this board away is one mistake I made. You always want to keep this board on even after you get the hole started, because I find a lot of myself, sometimes I get surprised and it breaks through, and the end of the drill comes down and taps the glass at the last second. I broke it at 2 or 3 doing that. Also, you want the drill to do the cutting for you. You do not want to force it through. You don't want to go real fast with your drill, because that's going to create a lot of added heat. And you also want to like I said, keep the drill going slow through it. Do not put pressure on that drill. Let that bit and the weight of the drill carry through. So without further ado, I will end up going in now and we'll start up my setup. I'm going to have to bring you on down here. Here we are. I'm just setting mine in the sink. It's a lot easier. Some people do, and I have a hose and I've tried it. It works. Drill with just water and go and get away with the not using any cutting oil. I recommend at least one, if not both. With this today, we're just going to go with the cutting oil. So I use maybe a capful, if that. I'm not going to measure it out because I know what it is here. But I use about a capful of it and put that down. And that hole on that board, which is just sized just a little bit bigger than the vent, maybe a little bigger than I needed it to be for this operation, but just a little bit bigger than the vent. You want to drill a hole in your board. This is just a 1x board, 1x4, I believe it is, that I'm using here. And then I have a Milwaukee drill. It really doesn't matter what drill you got for this. So I line it up, edge of the tank to the top of the frame, and I set my bit in. Like I said, when I start this, it's going to want to wiggle a bit, so I hold the one side of my jig so it doesn't wiggle. And I start off pretty slow. I'm cutting through right now real slow. Picked it up. This is roughly about a third to half of my drill speed is what I go with. And I will rock a little bit, kind of start the hole. But you really ideally want to keep it as straight as possible as you go through. I'm going to pick up my speed to about half. It takes about 1 minute or so to get through a tank. I'm stopping for a minute. I'll sometimes do that and see where I'm at. See, I lifted up on my board, and in the process of lifting up my board, I ended up losing a lot of my oil-based lubricant here, glass cutting oil. So I can just take my finger and get it towards the hole again. And because I got this jig, I can line right back up with the hole. You can actually feel the drill fall back in, and then I hold that in place as I'm drilling. Come to the end here, which I'm getting real close, you really want to slow down if you've been going fast, because that's one of your main areas that you're about, can crack it, is that last minute is your most crucial section. So you want to make sure all your weight from your hand is off the drill, you just want to go through that nice and slowly, and I'm about through here. So we're gonna go ahead and finish this hole. I'm rocking a little bit right to left. I know I was a little off with my hole to the front because I went through there already. I just went through, and there's no crack in this glass. I did it right. Again, obviously my board gets pretty oiled. I set that off to the side, and what you end up with here is just this little, basically, plug of glass. You will have some like little chipped edges like I have on this, but you end up with this plug of glass. And that will just be disposed of. Obviously very sharp. I recommend use of cut resistant gloves. Don't necessarily do it like me. I've been doing this for a while. I'm a little, perhaps not the smartest or safest by not using them myself. You know, it's all risk on you and what you decide to do, but I highly recommend some some cut resistant gloves. Help keep yourself from getting cut. But there it is. The hole is officially drilled through. I got to clean the rest of the oil off of this glass. But as you can see, I'm drilled through. You do have a little chip on the back side here, but it doesn't matter with the way the seal is. You're going to get those, especially with the cheaper bits, but it's not a big deal because it's covered up by the bulkhead itself. So with that, I'll leave you to be. I hope you find this video helpful. And until next time, happy fish keeping.